Can you guys hear me right now? Oh, typically, don't record this part, Rob. Don't. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentle drunks. My name is Kevin Olson. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Lovely to invite you all and to welcome you all to the fourth dimension. Big book study, that is. I'm very happy you guys are all here. I know I'm certainly glad here. It is the absolute joy of my life to be here with you guys. I never feel more alive than when I am sharing God's message of recovery in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that I discovered in a book called Alcoholics Anonymous that we're going to share together today. And I'm certainly glad to be here, and I'm excited about tonight. This is really, tonight is one of my favorite parts of the entire study, but I'll talk about that in a moment. Firstly, as we always do, let's kick off with the set-aside prayer. Goes a little something like this. Sing along if you know the words. God, please help me to set aside everything I think I know about you, about me, about my fellow man, and about the 12 steps. And please allow me to gain a fresh new vision, perspective, and understanding of what you, what me, what my fellow man, and the 12 steps are all about. Amen. And then, as this is the fourth dimension big book study, I always like to read the two parts of our book that refer to the fourth dimension. So firstly, on page 8, Bill Wilson writes that I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. And then on page 25, Bill Wilson writes that we have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. We're going to be catapulted. We're going to be rocketed. And for the sake of the tradition and custom of the fourth dimension big book study, would everyone you can please put one hand up like this? Please put another hand up like this. And everybody go, oh yeah. All right. See, I've got this crazy chair that, like, it bounces. This chair, it bounces. Man, it's awesome. We're gonna raise the roof, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna raise the roof. Okay. So tonight is like, it's the best. It's the best. It's the best. I'm gonna get like emotional talking about it because this part of step 4, column 4 in step 4, changed my life forever. In ways that I still grow, and I still to this day learn about, and still to this day change my perception of the world. My great grand sponsor, my grand sponsor, Clancy, would say, and is famous for saying, that we have a disease of perception. Alcoholics Anonymous, alcoholism rather, is a disease of perception. Okay, and he was famous for saying that around the world, that alcoholics see the world, but we see it poorly, and we see the world and we see it incorrectly. Okay, and my whole life frankly, was all about me, and was all about people attacking me, and people that had done me wrong, and blaming and assessing blame, and some of that stuff was rooted like right in childhood. If only those things hadn't happened to me when I was a kid, if those people wouldn't have done those things to me, I wouldn't be the way I am today. It's their fault. And we're going to talk through all of that tonight, okay? But this tool that I am given in step 4, in column 4 of step 4, it took me a long time to really figure it out, to really work through it with a sponsor, and to really get it. And I'm going to talk about it tonight. The mistake that I made in my understanding, my misunderstanding of column 4 and step 4. My great grand sponsor, Chuck Chamberlain, wrote a book. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called A New Pair of Glasses. Okay. And it was kind of, it was based on a talk that he gave, but it was really kind of his thoughts and his memoirs, if you will, on Alcoholics Anonymous. And this talk that he gave was so pivotal in the lives of many people that they actually produced a book about it. Okay, and you can go to central office and just about anywhere in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you'll be able to find a copy of Chuck Chamberlain, A New Pair of Glasses. If you've never read the book, I highly recommend it. Even better, listen to the talk. Listen to the talk that he gives. Anyway, why would he call it A New Pair of Glasses? He could have called it anything. He could have named that book anything that he wanted to. And of all the things that he could have picked, all the things that he landed on, he chose to name his book about his deepest thoughts and beliefs about the core of what Alcoholics Anonymous is really about. What did he name it? He named it A New Pair of Glasses. Well, why would that be? Why would he name it A New Pair of Glasses? I believe it's because he felt, as I do, that this change of perception that happens for us is really the solution to Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, and it happens through spiritual growth. Okay, but that spiritual growth really begins to occur when I can clear away the things within me that are blocking me from God. And one of the ways that we do that is by starting to look at reality correctly. And once I'm able to do that, I can start to see the world, and I can start to see you, and I can start to see the people that I resent, and I can start to see the people I love, and I can see everyone in the world in an entirely new light. And in fact, it fundamentally even changes my relationship with God, and my relationship with God can grow. And remember, guys, if you've never heard me say this, I believe this strongly. Alcoholics Anonymous does not get me sober. The 12 steps don't get me sober. My sponsor doesn't get me sober. The big book doesn't get me sober. None of that gets me sober. All of those things that I just mentioned get me connected to the thing that does get me sober, and that is God. God is the solution in Alcoholics Anonymous. God gets us sober. Everything that I just mentioned just gets us closer to the power. And a big part of what we're going to do is one of the most important spiritual toolkits that we get is in step 4, column 4, done correctly. And as I said, I did it incorrectly for many years. So I said last night, let's start with the hospital meditation, okay? And or rather, not last night, but last week. Before, so by the way, can you guys see this whiteboard? Can you guys see this? Is that okay for you? If you can't see it clearly, you can pin like my little square there, and you should be able to see it a little bit better. I always feel it's more real for me when I write this out in real time for you guys. I don't like to, like, I know it would probably be kind of make more sense to have this kind of just captured and just use the slide every time, but I like writing it out. And as you saw last week, I was trying to write it out on the PowerPoint. That just didn't work very well. So this is how we did it for years and years and years on the whiteboard here. So anyway, to recap, column 4. What is column 1? Column 1 in step 4 is who. Who? Okay, we listed people, principles, or institutions with whom we were angry. What's column 2? Column 2 is we asked ourselves why we were angry. Okay. Column 3. What was column 3? Column 3 is affects my. Does it affect my, the resentment, the situation, the person that I resent, does it impact my self-esteem, my emotional security, my financial security, my physical security, my ambition, my personal relationships, or my sexual relationships? Okay. I ask myself that question. Remember, we always start with number one. We do all of column one first. Okay, we do all of column one, then we go back and we write out all of column one. Remember, in column two rather, column two, no more than 19 words. That's the example that it gives us in the book. Okay, for Mr. Brown, he never uses more than 19 words. Okay. Then affects my, we go back to column three, we write that all out. One of the things I didn't mention last week, and it was actually someone else reminded me of it. The more things that I have under column three that are affected, the more powerful this relationship, this resentment is rather. Or the more powerful this resentment is, typically, the more of these things that will be impacted. Okay. So if I find that a particular resentment is affecting my, yes, it affects my self-esteem. Yes, it affects my financial security. Yes, it affected my physical security. Okay. Yes, it impacted my financial security. Yes, it impacts my ambition. If I'm listing a lot of these things, probably this is a $50 bill. Okay. If this is just a nickel and dime, probably we're going to see, it doesn't really impact my self-esteem. No, it was just, I got a parking ticket and it affected my financial security and impacted my ambition a little bit. I don't really want to, go out and drive around anymore because screw those guys, and so on. Okay. So the more powerful this resentment is, a $50 bill, as I like to say, the more powerful this resentment is, the more of these things that will be affected, or vice versa, the more of these things that are affected, typically, the more powerful this resentment is. Does that make sense, you guys? Thumbs up if that makes sense. Let me see some thumbs up. Yeah. I love it. Okay. So bonus round. Here's a bonus round, and this is, this is why I wanted to be able to have to have my audio working. So thanks for that. Can anyone tell me what, and this is super important actually, guys, in between column 3 and column 4, remember, what do? We have a prayer. We have a prayer, okay? Can anyone tell me, does anyone want to unmute and volunteer to tell me and try to take a stab at what 2 pages in the book do we find the prayer on? This is key. Like, if you're sponsoring people, please know this, okay? It's one of the most important ways that we can begin to forgive the people who harmed us, okay? So does anyone know? Can anyone venture a guess? Anyone? Hey, Benjamin Collins. Okay. Here's what. I love that Benjamin put his hand up, and I love that Maggie put her hand up. So here's what we're gonna do, because I love both you guys. Ben, you're gonna give us the first one, okay? Because there's 2 pages. Ben, you give us the first one. Maggie's gonna give us the second one, okay? Yeah? Okay, Ben, what's the first page?
Page 67.
Oh, yeah! Awesome. You want to read it for us?
Sure. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend.
Keep going.
When a person offended, we said to ourselves, "This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done."
Okay, and Ben, I know that you're getting ready. You're fixing to start sponsoring, guys. So I'm going to ask you a couple more questions because it's great. You're doing awesome. What is and this is just the Kevin Big Book study. This is just something that I like to do. But what is another word that I will substitute or use in addition to "this is a sick man"? What's another way that I'll say that?
I know this.
I'll give you a hint.
I know what you mean. I just can't think of it.
I'll give you a hint. Think Buddhism. Think Thich Nhat Hanh and Buddhism. Does that help at all? It's okay. I'll throw it out there.
Blank.
Suffering.
Sorry, Kev.
Suffering.
Man. Yep. Okay.
Okay. We realize the people who wronged us were suffering. Okay. And though we didn't like their symptoms, column 2, and the way they disturbed us, column 3, they, like ourselves, were suffering too. Okay. The people who harm us may not even want to harm us. It's just that those people, they are suffering. Okay. In whatever way that looks like for them, they are suffering, and their suffering is spilling out of them and causing us to suffer. Okay. And we are not even the first victims of their suffering. Who is the first victim of their suffering? They are. Okay. And I know it's not easy because we've spent a lot. It's almost like, look, this way of life in AA, sometimes it's almost like trying to get a river to start flowing in a new direction. And that's not easy to do. Okay. And my river had been flowing in one direction for a long time. And that direction is, I hate everyone and it's not my fault. Okay. It's not my fault. It's their fault. My life is this way and it's their fault and I hate them. Okay. My life had been flowing. My river had been flowing in that direction for a long time. And it's hard to get that river to start flowing in another direction. And that's why we need God's help to do it. Okay. We ask God. Remember, we talked about this last week. I don't have the power to forgive. God has the power to forgive, and I accept his forgiveness. That's how that works. Okay. I believe that. That works for self-forgiveness too. I don't have the power to forgive myself. I don't believe that. You can disagree, and that's okay. I just want you to know, I don't believe I have the power to forgive myself. I believe that God has that power to forgive me, and I have to accept his forgiveness. Okay. And that's how it works, I believe, with others. I don't have the power to forgive other people. If it did, I wouldn't be here. I'm a resentful son of a gun. Okay. And it's not my fault, and it's all their fault. And I spilled my ice cream on the ground, and I just want to cry and take my ball and go home. And I hate you all. Okay. That's me. Okay. That's how I am. Anyone here ever drink at people? Get drunk at people? Yeah, there's a special group of human beings on planet Earth that get drunk at other people, and we are called alcoholics. Okay, normal people do not drink at other people. Okay, but fueled with this resentment. So how do we overcome that? Part of it is simply by understanding, God, please help me to show this person, this suffering person, the same tolerance, pity, and patience I would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, this person, this woman is suffering. And when I can see them as suffering people, what do I begin to feel? Not anger anymore, compassion. That's the feeling of compassion. Okay. Because here's the thing, when I call them a sick person, that can just be like a judgment, like, well, he's just a sick SOB anyway. That's his problem. Okay. Like, not a lot of spiritual growth in that. You guys know what I mean? Well, he's just a sick so-and-so. It's judgmental, you know? And don't I love to get together with other groups of people and talk about how sick they are, you know? Not how sick they are, how sick that person is to another group of people, and assassinate his character behind his back or her back or their back or whatever. But when I start to understand that they are suffering, truly suffering, oh man, immediately I begin to feel compassion. Okay. Now, Ben, one other question. I think you'll get this one. We talked about this last week. What is, on page 67, what is the short form of the step 4 prayer? If I can only remember one line from the whole thing, what is it?
This is a sick man. God save me from being angry.
That's it, man. God save me from being angry. That's it. And there are times in my life, man, where I am in public, and I'm about, like, little King Kevin is like talking in my ear. He's like, let's go crazy. Ah! Okay. And I'm just like, God save me from being angry. God save me from being angry. God save me from being angry. God save me. Save me. Save me, God, from being angry. Why do I need to be saved from being angry? Well, first reason is our book says resentment kill more alcoholics than anything. So if I let this stuff live in my heart and my soul and my head, man, I'm a dead man. Okay, so I need to be saved from that. But the other thing is this unfortunate hole that I have on the front of my face here. This thing here. If left unchecked, it's a weapon. It's a weapon. Okay. And I have caused more pain. I have caused as much pain and wreckage with things that I have said to people in sobriety than I ever did when I was drinking. Hell, when I was drinking, most of the time you couldn't understand what I was saying anyway, right? Okay, but when I'm sober, okay, now I'm dangerous. Okay, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to brag on that at all. It's not something to be bragged about. That's how it is. So I need to be saved from lashing out. Bill talks in step 10 in the 12 and 12 about restraint of tongue and pen. Okay, this carries a top priority rating. One willful snap judgment or one unkind tirade can ruin our relations with another person for a day or sometimes a whole year or sometimes a lifetime. Okay, nothing pays off like restraint of tongue and pen. Restraint of tongue and pen and text and email and Facebook Messenger and Snapchat and Instagram DM and YouTube comments and on and on and on and on. Okay, restraint. And we'll talk more about that later down the road. Excellent work, Benjamin Collins. You're going to be a heck of a sponsor. I'm excited for you. Very good, very good. Round of applause for Ben for stepping in there. Okay, so that's the first one, page 67. Now, over to Maggie. Maggie, what's the second page that we
552.
Say again?
552.
Say it loud.
552.
All right, 552. I'm telling you, man, I love this stuff. Great job, Maggie. Do you want to read it for us?
Yes, if you have a resentment you want to be free of, you will pray for the person or the thing that you resent. You will be free. If you will ask in prayer for everything you want for yourself to be given to them, you will be free. Ask for their health, their prosperity, their happiness, and you will be free. Even when you don't really want it for them, and in your prayers only are words and you don't mean it, go ahead and do it anyway. Do it every day for 2 weeks, and you will find that you come to mean it and want it for them, and you will realize that where you used to feel bitterness and resentment and hatred, you will now feel compassionate and understanding and love.
Compassionate understanding and love is what we develop and build. Okay, so my suggestion to y'all is that on in how it works on page 66, okay, where it says we turn back to the list. Okay, on page 67, where it has the sick man prayer. This is sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save him from being angry, thy will be done. I'm going to suggest right in the margin there, after it says done with the quotation marks, put a little note that says see page 552. Okay, so that you remember that those are connected. You don't just have to come on the Tuesday night big book study to be reminded of it. Okay, and that's one of the keys to the kingdom, brothers and sisters. Like when my sponsor pointed this stuff out to me, I thought, my God, I thought he had invented fire. You know, I didn't know like where all this stuff was coming from. It was like, it was mystical, and it's not. It's just, it's there. It's hidden in plain sight. Okay. So the way that we do this, guys, by the way, is like what I ask my sponsors to do is for every person on column one, at least one time to say this. God, please help me to show Mr. ABC. Please help me to show Mr. ABC the same tolerance, pity, and patience I would cheerfully grant a sick friend. Mr. ABC is a sick and suffering man. How can I be helpful to him? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. God, please give Mr. ABC all of the things that I want for myself to him. God, please grant Mr. ABC health, prosperity, happiness, and allow him to be free. Okay. Yeah, health, prosperity, and happiness. Okay. That's what it says. And so that's what we do. If you want to do it to the letter of the law, so to speak, page 67, page 552. And that's what I do. That's what I do. That's what I do with my sponsees. what I have learned over time, let me share just a couple other things with you in terms of overcome, and then we're going to go to column 4. In terms of praying for the people that we are having a resentment towards, okay? Another thing I have been taught, I was taught by a great old timer in AA, if that I'm having a real trouble with someone, what I need to do is try and focus on their good qualities. Try and think, so this person that I have a resentment towards, okay? And he's a member of AA. Okay, so what I need to think about when I think about him is, you know, he is a good father. He is a good father. Okay. And he is a good member of our home group. He and I clash and lock horns all the time, but he is a good member of our home group nonetheless. Okay. And he is trying to help people. He is trying to help people. My sponsor pointed that one out to me. Kevin, is he trying to help people? Like, yeah, he is. Okay. Yes, he is. He's trying to help people. And when I think on him that way, it also helps to neutralize the resentment. Okay. There's a great saying. Now, you guys have heard me say I like to take everything I can from all the world's major religions. And man, if it's good and spiritual, you know, when I was using drugs and drinking, man, I didn't ask. I wasn't picky about what brand I was using. Okay. You put it in my hand, I put it in my mouth. That's how that worked. Okay. So I'm the same with spirituality, man. Okay, yeah, I want, give me all the Buddhism, all right, and then yeah, I'll take me some Islam, okay, and I'm going to share something with you from Judaism right now. In Judaism, they have a big book called the Talmud. You ever heard of the Talmud? It's like their Bible, basically, okay, and it doesn't matter. You can think of it like the big book. In the big book, there are capital letters, right, and then there are lowercase letters, right? You guys know what I'm saying? There's big letters at the beginning sentences, and then there's little letters. I need to see the good things about people in capital letters, and I need to see the bad things about them in lowercase letters. That's what they believe in Judaism, and I always thought that was helpful. Okay, so what my first sponsor taught me, and now we're going to talk about the hospital meditation, okay? My first sponsor taught me that what it says in the book is we ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. And so something that has been immeasurably powerful for myself and for many other people that I have taken through this work is to think about the person that I resent and think about them literally as a sick person, and to imagine them in the hospital and imagine that I am going to visit them on the hospital. I want to get into column 4. So we're not going to do the whole meditation today. Basically what I do is I'll close my eyes, imagine going into the hospital, imagine going up to the room, we go in the room. And then what's key for me is like, when I do this meditation for this fella that I'm talking about here, I am sad. I get immediately sad thinking about this man. If this man were to be in the hospital, because I get sad because how could I be so petty and small in my ridiculous little resentments about this man? And it immediately neutralizes the resentment, and immediately I begin to feel compassion. And what's key is what I'll recommend, and I've done this for like lots of resentments that I've had. I'll think about going in to the hospital and seeing them sick and in pain and scared, and they're on their deathbed. And I thought to myself, is that what I want? Do I want this guy to like leave the group and die? Is that what I want? Like, no, that's not what I want. I just want my way. That's what I want. Okay. And why is little King Kevin getting upset? Because little King Kevin is not getting his way. All right. That's really what it is. Okay. And so you imagine this person being in the hospital, and it could be a brother, a sister, a friend, a coworker, whoever it is. Just imagine going into the hospital and you see them there. And I mean, think about it. Think about the biggest resentment that you have, and think about, no, Don't think about the biggest one yet. You may not be ready for that, but think about just a $5 bill, okay? Not a $50 bill, not a nickel and dime. Think about a $5 resentment, okay, that you have. And think about going in. How would you feel in that moment? Would you suddenly be all twisted up about the fact that they got put on the schedule at work and I was supposed to be on there? Like, no, they're actually dying right now. How important is that, whatever it was, that big thing that I had going on? How important is it really? Compared to, and I can do that just in my mind. And then what I like to do is think about an act of service that I can do for them right there in that moment as well. So it might be like opening the blinds to let the sunlight in, or helping to comfort their pillow, or can I go get you a Coke from the, whatever. And it's powerful. Okay. And if I do that, if I will practice that, if I will do that, what's the most important word in all of Alcoholics Anonymous? Do. The word do. D-O. Okay? It's not being here and coming to the Fourth Dimension Big Book Study on Tuesday nights and listening to Kevin talk about the hospital meditation is not recovery from alcoholism. Okay? It's not. Recovery from alcoholism happens when you apply the tool yourself. When you pick a resentment that you want to be free of and will apply this tool, this is when you will begin to recover from alcoholism. Does that make sense? Okay? Sitting around in meetings talking about my problems is not recovery from alcoholism, period. And I will fight tooth and nail with anyone. Although we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, I know. Okay, okay. I know, but this is serious, man, because I almost died right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, right in the middle of AA, swimming around from 3-topic disgusting meeting to another, thinking that I had been to Alcoholics Anonymous and it didn't work. And I almost committed suicide right in the middle of AA. And if you are identifying with that and you know what I'm saying, please keep coming back here, man, because I'm here to tell you there's miracles available in this incredible program. The fourth dimension of existence is very real. It's very real. And whatever it is, whatever life it was that you were living out there that brought you in here, I promise you, you do not have to live that way anymore. Whatever it was you're feeling out there that brought you in here, I promise you, you do not have to feel that way anymore, okay? And so on that note, brothers and sisters, let's get into column 4. Thank you to Benjamin, and let's have a round of applause for Maggie as well for getting page 552. Oh, yeah! Okay. So now, page 67, okay? And really, guys, the directions are here. It's pretty clear. You see where it says referring to our list again? Okay, that's column 4. Okay, so it means we refer to our list again. We go back to column 4. Now, Brad is not here tonight. So let's, who would like to volunteer to read? Anyone? Richard. All right, my man, Richard. There's not a lot of reading to do tonight, but here's what we're going to do. I just want you to read that paragraph. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I promise. I'm not going to interrupt. You go ahead and read that paragraph for us. And understand, making a note in the margin. Step 4, column 4. This is where column 4 begins in here, and we're going to break it down together.
Thank you, Kevin. Referring to our list again, we put out of our minds the wrongs others had done. We resolutely look for our own mistakes. Where had I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight.
Okay, beautiful. So column 4, I'm just gonna show you guys how I do column 4. Okay, and I will say that I have taken hundreds of men through this step 4. I believe this is the way it should be done. As with everything, if your sponsor has a different way of doing step 4, as long as it's out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there may be a different slant on how they do things. Your sponsor is right. Okay? This is just how I do it. A lot of it is how I've been taught to do it. And a lot of it is through taking many people through it and having taught it at this big book study for the last 15 years. This is, and I will say it's effective and very transformative in my life. It is an incredibly powerful spiritual toolkit, and I have seen it transform the lives of others as they learned how to change and get a new pair of glasses and change their perception of reality. Okay? Because up until now, column 3, it's all blame. This is who it was. This is what they did. This is how it affected me. And I'm going to pray for this sick SOB. All right? Okay. And we begin. And the reason I got to pray first is because the prayer kind of cleans the channel a little bit. Okay? And it kind of cleans off the lenses of the glasses a little bit. So I can start to see things a little more clearly. Okay? Before I go in to do column 4. Now, one of the things I want to say is that when I do step 4, column 4, and when my sponsees are doing it, I am not the sponsor that will sit with them for hours and hours and hours at a time while they work on their step 4. I know that there are some sponsors that do that. I don't do that. I give them the tools. I expect them to do it. I will spend time with them in their step 5 and we will talk through it. They may get stuck doing this and they may not be able to see clearly what we're talking about here, where they're to blame. And we will talk about that through their step 5. Okay. And I will help them to see the reality. So column 4, what our book says, the question that I need to ask myself here is, where am I to blame? Where am I to blame? In terms of this resentment, where am I to blame? Now, the mistake that I made for many years in Alcoholics Anonymous, trying to find some level of forgiveness in this and some level of change of my perception, I thought that what I was looking for is, where am I to blame in how I reacted to what they did to me? So they did this thing, and then I reacted. And how did I react, and where am I to blame in terms of how I responded to this terrible thing that they did to me? Okay? And I want you to know that is completely incorrect, completely wrong. Okay? Disregard what I just said. Where I want to look in terms of where am I to blame, I want to look in 3 places, and I'm going to take you guys through each of them. Okay? Number 1, I'm going to look in the past. In the past, and we'll talk about this in just a second. I'm going to look in the past. I'm going to look in the mirror. I'm going to look in the mirror, okay? And then lastly, where am I to blame today? So, in terms of looking at where am I to blame in the past, we're going to go to we're going to go back to page 62. And if you go back to page 62, there's a particular paragraph there that I probably asked you, let's make a note. This is one of the most important paragraphs in the book. And in fact, you may even have a note there, if you were really diligent, that will say step 4, column 4. Well, lo and behold, here we are again. Okay. Yeah, Maggie, did you make that note? I can see Maggie nodding, right? This is where it comes back. Okay. This is how it's connected. Okay. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, selfishness, self-seeking, and self-delusion. I thought I got cocky and thought I wouldn't have to read it, but I do. Self-seeking, self-pity. Ooh, self-pity, self-pity. We're going to talk about self-pity. Make a note, self-pity. We're going to talk about that tonight. This is it. This is like one of the keys to the kingdom. This is magic. This is God's word right here. Okay? We step on the toes of our fellows, and they retaliate. So now this is, again, I'm going to ask your river to flow in a new direction now, just for a minute. What I want you to understand is that when I step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate, what we're seeing is their retaliation to me is whatever I have written down in column 2. The resentment that I have towards this person. What I need to see is that that is their retaliation to somewhere I have stepped on their toes in the past. And when I am able to see how I stepped on their toes, it will neutralize the resentment for how they retaliated. It goes on, and even better, this is music, this is poetry. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation. Seemingly without provocation. I want to believe I was just standing there minding my own business like a perfect little angel, and they came up for no reason and put the whammy on me. Why they targeted me out, I'll never know. Okay? Seemingly without provocation. But wait a minute. What does this say? But invariably. What does invariably mean? Invariably means every doggone time. Every time. Every time. We find that I made a decision based on self that later placed me in this position to get hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. Okay? We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. What I am looking for. And somebody had asked me last week, okay, so where are we looking at, like, where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? We're looking in the past. In the past, where had I been selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, and frightened in a way that put me invariably, we find that little King Kevin made decisions based on self that put him in a position to be hurt, seemingly without provocation. No, I started the ball rolling. Okay. Now, you may hear that and think, like, what? I don't get it. It's okay. I didn't get it either. But let me take you through some examples. Okay. Let's go to some of the first examples. The best examples are always in the book. So let's go to page 65. Okay. Page 65, Mr. Brown. So imagine I'm Bill Wilson. Okay. And I'm writing my resentment. Who am I resentful at? Mr. Brown. Okay. Why am I resentful? I'm resentful of his attention to my wife. He told my wife of my mistress, and Brown is going to get my job at the office. Hell's bells. Can you imagine? Okay. I saw somebody at a conference one time that had a t-shirt. Actually, I don't know if I saw it or I've heard about it anyway. I'm not going to say I actually saw it, but I've heard it. I think maybe I have seen it. Anyway, it says, it has this part of the book cut out and then a big like red mark around it and says Mr. Brown needs to get his butt kicked. Okay. Because Mr. Brown is like ratting me out to my boss and ratting me out to my wife. Like, he's okay. But now, what decisions based on self did I make that put me in this position to be hurt by Mr. Brown? And there is one thing that I did that should be glaringly obvious. Can anybody want to unmute and take a guess what it is? Come on now, come on, be brave. Raise your hand if you want to unmute and share about it.
To my wife,
Say again, Marcus?
lack of attention.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. But let's talk about this. There's one that's even more glaring, where it says Mr. Brown told my wife about my mistress. What decisions based on self did I make in the past that put me in that position to be hurt? Anyone?
Sleeping with another woman.
Hey, there's a good start. Okay? If I don't have a mistress, Mr. Brown doesn't get to tell my wife about my mistress. And yet, like, I'm standing there seemingly without provocation, and Mr. Brown, how could he? How could he? How inconsiderate can you be that he told my wife about my mistress? Hey, man, like, that's it. Okay? But we don't see that, do we? We don't see that. I just see that I'm there and I'm the victim and Mr. Brown did this to me. I don't want to look at this new pair of glasses. You see that? That new way of trying to get the river to flow in a new direction for once. This is something that actually grown-ups, guys, will refer to. It's a very unusual phrase to alcoholics, but grown-ups will refer to this as reality. And we don't like reality, okay? We don't like reality. Grown-ups refer to this as reality, okay? Now, let's think about Mr. Brown, his attention to my wife, okay? What decisions based on self did I make that put me in that position? Well, who am I paying attention to? Not my wife, okay? I'm paying attention to the mistress, okay? Of course, man. And of course she's, anyway, I don't want to get into all that. Now, Brown may get my job at the office. Do you guys think that I'm employee number one right now? A drunk with a mistress out? No, I'm a dirtbag. Okay? I'm a terrible employee. Of course, Mr. Brown is going to get my job. Okay? You want to know how I know that? Let's bounce down to my employer. Okay? My employer. Unreasonable. Unjust. He's overbearing. Threatens to fire me for drinking and padding my expense account. Really? And now Mr. Brown's going to get my job at the office. Can't imagine why. Okay? But we don't see it that way. All I see is this Brown, Mr. Brown, and here's why in my 19 words. And it affects my self-esteem, and it affects my physical security and financial security and emotional security and my ambition and my personal relationships, my sex relationships. Mr. Brown's a $50 bill. Okay? Oh, why? I'm the one who was cheating on my wife. Okay? I don't stop to think about that, do I? I'm the one who was not paying attention to my wife. I'm the one who was drinking at my job. And there's only one place in the world that I've ever heard the term padding the expense account. And that's in Alcoholics Anonymous. Anywhere else in the world, do you know what they call that? Theft from an employer is what they call that in the rest of the world. It's not cute. It's not kooky. It's not funny, and it's not okay to pad the expense account. He's stealing from his employer. That's what that is. Theft from an employer. That's what he's doing. And now he's going to lose his job. He's going to lose his job. Okay, so now let's talk about Mrs. Jones. So Mrs. Jones, she's a nut. She snubbed me. She committed her husband for drinking. He's my friend. She's a gossip. What decisions based on self did I make that put me in that position? How about drinking with her husband and probably destroying her family because I had no consideration for anyone other than the fact that I wanted a drinking buddy? Okay? And I had no consideration for her trying to hold her family and her children together. Okay? And she's gossiping. How could she? Well, I wonder what she's gossiping about. How about the fact that I'm out with her husband drinking and helping to destroy their family all the time? She's a gossip. Okay? Yeah, what is she gossiping about? She snubbed me. Well, gosh, what decisions based on self did I make that probably because I was a stinking street drunk that she didn't want to have anything to do with when she saw me? So yeah, she snubbed me. Okay? And look, when I look at things this way, and I know I'm being hard on myself, but I'm going to share one with you from real time, like one that was really part of my life. I needed to look at what decisions based on self, in what ways did I step on Mrs. Jones' toes? And she retaliated, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find at some point in the past, we have made decisions based on self that put me in that position to be hurt, okay? So when I got sober, I resented Mike. Mike was my resentment. Mike, column 1, Mike, column 2, why? He embarrassed me and humiliated me at a party, okay? And what happened was we were at a party and he told a room full of people, he was kind of telling jokes and it was kind of like a roast in a way. He was kind of, I don't know, just telling jokes and he kind of had the floor, you know what I mean? And he was like, yeah, this person, blah, 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 and that guy, blah, blah, blah. And Kevin Olson, let me tell you about that guy. The guy's a total thief. You can't trust that guy any further than you can throw him. He'd steal the fillings out of your teeth if he could. And everyone laughed at me. All the women in the room and it snickered, laughed at me. And I felt this big. And I hated him. I hated him for years for making me feel that way and embarrassing me in public that way. I hated him for that. How could he? What a jerk. And I'm talking about 10 to 12 years later, I'm in treatment in 1835 house after 10 or 12 years of getting drunk at Mike for doing that to me. Among other things, I kind of had a rotating, like a merry-go-round of resentments. I could pick anyone I wanted on any given day. I could get drunk at it. It was great. Okay. And I sat down to do my inventory. Column 1, Mike. Column 2, why? Well, here's what he did. Column 3, how did it affect me? Yeah. Column 4, pray. Mike is a sick and suffering person. God, show me how I can be helpful to him. God, save him from being angry. Thy will be done. God, please grant Mike everything I want for myself to be given to him. Please give Mike health, prosperity, and wellness. Okay. Now, what decisions based on self did I make that put me in that position to be hurt by Mike humiliating me in a room full of people, telling them that I was a thief? Anyone want to guess? I was a thief. I stole from him every chance I got. I stole money. I stole drugs. I stole cigarettes. I stole cans of SpaghettiOs from him. Okay, like everything. I stole from him night and day, every chance I got. And yet I'm like appalled that but I never saw that. Couldn't see that, could I? I was not aware of that until I applied this tool. Okay. And once I applied this tool, it changed my perception. Can you see how that would change the way that I saw Mike? Can you see that? It changes the way that I would see Mr. Brown, like, my God, I'm the one. No, I'm not saying Mr. Brown is like a good guy. Okay, look, and I'll tell my sponsees, like, I'm willing to meet you halfway. Okay, I'm not saying that what he's doing is like, it's not awesome. Okay, but we resolutely look for our own part. What decisions based on self did I make that put me in that position? Okay. Now, if you guys can just hang with me for a couple more minutes, we'll get through the rest of this, and we may do a little review next week. But okay, so that's past. That's page 62. Mirror. Okay, so there's three parts again that I'm going to look. Where am I to blame? Where am I to blame when I look in the past? Now we're going to talk about the mirror. Where am I to blame when I look in the mirror? Okay. And what I mean by that, it says, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely looked for our own mistakes. Okay. What I mean when I say, where am I to blame when I look in the mirror, is to say, the thing that I am resentful at this person for, the thing that I am judging them for, is it possible that I am guilty or am capable of being guilty of the very same thing? Okay, so let's take Mike for an example. The guy Mike that I just told you about. Have I ever humiliated someone in public to get laughs to make myself look good? Have I ever done that? Like, I've probably done that today. Okay, yes, that's exactly the way that I am. And something about that, the difference, guys, and this is something that I believe, there's the difference between pity and empathy and compassion. Pity is, I feel sorry for you. Very low spiritual level. Empathy is, I feel what you feel. Little bit higher on the spiritual energy level, okay? But compassion is, you and I are the same. And where we can really flex that muscle is by looking in the mirror, okay? So let's look at Mr. Brown, okay? His attention to my wife. Am I capable of paying attention to someone else's wife? Yes. Not anymore, okay? But in the past, yes. Mr. Brown, he told my wife of my mistress. Have I ever in the past told on a guy that he had a mistress when he was with someone else that I wanted to be with? I literally, when I was 20 years old, did that exact thing. A guy named Bo was with a woman that I wanted to be with, and I knew that Bo was cheating on her. And so I told her that Bo was cheating on her so that I could get with her and be the hero. I literally did that exact thing. Okay? Brown may get my job at the office. Have I ever tried to angle someone out of their job, out of their career, and make myself look good and make myself look better so I could steal their gig? Yeah, I've probably done that, or I'm at least capable of doing that. Okay? And so by doing that, when we look in the mirror, we start to build compassion. You guys understand what I'm saying? Now, Mrs. Jones, she's a nut. She snubbed me. Have I ever snubbed someone thinking that I'm better than them? Absolutely. She's a gossip. Have I ever gossiped? Yes, absolutely. So I need to look at the thing that I've listed in column 2 that I'm judging this person for. Am I guilty, or am I even capable of being guilty of the same thing? When I'm able to see that, there's something just magical happens. I don't even have to work at it. Just by applying that tool, by doing that, the compassion takes care of itself. Okay, so number 1, I'm going to look at what decisions based on self that I make in the past that put me in this position to be hurt. And I understand if you're confused about it, we can talk about it more next week, or talk to your sponsor. You can talk to me or any other person that you find helpful, because it's literally like trying to get a river to flow in a new direction. But once you get in enough reps, man, and you get that muscle working, it's powerful. Then column 2, naturally, we start looking in the mirror. It'll start happening naturally for you. The very thing that I resent, am I guilty of, or could I be possibly capable of being guilty of the same thing? Okay, lastly, guys, when we talk about today, where am I to blame today? And when we talk about today in particular, guys, one of the questions that comes up a lot is the question about trauma. Capital T trauma, little t trauma, capital T trauma. Where do we cover trauma in Alcoholics Anonymous? Okay. And most of us have trauma of some kind when we get to AA. Most of us. Okay. It might be childhood abuse. It might be abuse that happened later in our life. It may be a horrific accident. It may be, I have a sponsee who was in a third world country, and he was kidnapped and he was tortured for days and days and days. By the way, if you want to know what was his part in that resentment, anyone want to guess what he was out looking for in the Dominican Republic when he got kidnapped? Cocaine. Okay. He was out looking to get high and he got fucking kidnapped. Okay. Pardon my language, but yeah. Anyway, we talked all through that. Okay. Here's the thing with trauma and where am I to blame today? And I'm going to say this as carefully and as mindfully and delicately, but emphatically as I can. And I'm just going to share my own experience. Okay. I'm going to speak in a general way. I was subject to childhood trauma. Okay. And I used that trauma for years in my life as an excuse for my continued bad behavior and my continued alcoholism and my continued drinking. And alcoholics have an amazing ability to take trauma, which is genuine and real and authentic and needs to be taken care of. But my trauma warped into something completely different. My trauma warped into a word that sounds a lot like trauma, rhymes with trauma, and that word is drama. Okay? The drama of Kevin's life and the self-pity that I would use to ignite the flame of trauma every time I needed an excuse to start drinking again. Don't you know what happened to me when I was a kid? If what happened to me happened to you, you'd live my life too. And it was worse once my family found out. Because once my family found out, then I used it. I weaponized it. I used my trauma as a weapon against my family. Mom, you know what happened. You know what happened, Mom, to me. How dare you judge me for my drinking? Don't you know what happened? And yes, yeah, I need you to pay my rent again, Mom. But you know what happened. Okay? So what I need to look at is, in terms of this resentment, where am I to blame in that trauma today? Okay? If something happened to me when I was a child years ago, or even in the near recent past, I mean, if something happened to me, I am certainly a victim. There's no question of that. Okay? And if you're here, and by the way, if you're here and you are struggling with significant trauma, I want you to know that when I was 4 years sober, I went through in-depth trauma therapy. I did it was called EMDR. Anybody here ever heard of EMDR? Eye movement desensitization. It works like, it's amazing. Amazing. But until I got a solid foundation in sobriety and Alcoholics Anonymous, I was never going to be able to do that trauma therapy. I was going to do what I did every time with countless therapists, which was go to session number 1, have a little back and forth, go to session number 2, starts to get a little raw, a little painful, and I'm gone. And I never went back, because where did I go? I went to get drunk. Okay? And so I never did the work. And it wasn't until I was sober and had a solid foundation in AA. And I could never get that solid foundation in AA until I was willing to get real about the fact that, at least to some degree, in terms of where am I to blame, I was using that trauma and blaming that as an excuse. And until I got real about that, I was never going to be able to be sober. I was never going to get sober, because I would invariably find time and time and time again a reason, an excuse to use that as a get out of jail free card. Okay. And I've seen it. And every time I get to this part in the study, I always wonder, is there going to be someone who gets upset that I'm saying this stuff? And it's never happened, because I think inherently, intuitively, we all know that we do it to some degree. Now, I'm not saying that your trauma is not real and that it doesn't deserve love and attention and therapy. Yes, you should do that. And I can suggest therapists for you, okay? And I will walk through it with you, okay? Arm in arm as members of Alcoholics Anonymous. But at least part of what I had to do was to understand that if I was abused, if I was suffering from any type of trauma, my sponsee, who was kidnapped, he was like 35 years old, and he was kidnapped in the Dominican Republic and tortured for days. What do you think he did? Do you think that made him want to get sober? You think that made him say, man, I'm never doing cocaine again? Not at all. He rode that pony as long as he could. And I know everyone here on this call understands that. He got drunk at that situation, behind that situation, because of that situation for years. And Kevin, how can you say they kidnapped me, they tortured me? Don't you know what First of all, what decision based on self? Yeah. Okay, in the mirror, we're not going to go there. But today, brother, is it possible that you're using this as an excuse to continue justifying your terrible behavior? Yes. Did I do that for years? Yes. Is it easy to hear? No, it's not easy to hear. But it's important for me to be honest with myself about that. And if anyone wants to talk more about this or talk more deeply about it, I'm happy to talk to you anytime. And I understand, I'm not saying that you're not suffering, and I'm not saying that you're not in pain. What I am saying is that we sick, twisted alcoholics will take that suffering and take that pain, and our alcoholism will convince us that the thing to do about it is to take another fucking drink. And that's a lie. You guys with me on that? All right. Thank you for hearing me tonight, guys. I know we're over time. I love you all. And let's close. Let's close with the Lord's Prayer. And then don't run away. Don't run away. We're going to go around the room. Everyone's going to say hello and let us know where you're from. It's my favorite part of the whole week, man. I love it. Okay, so don't run away. Everyone stay online and we'll say hello. And we'll close with the Lord's Prayer. Okay, our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right. All right.